Hello and welcome to today's NinjaTrader Ecosystem webinar event with Chris Lassen of LizardIndicators. My name is Tiffany and I am a platform representative at NinjaTrader. I am going to apologize ahead of time. I've been sick for about a week, so if I sound a little rough, I do apologize. Today's webinar is interactive, so if you'd like to ask questions during the presentation, please open the chat window. You can open the chat by moving your mouse to the bottom of the Zoom window and pressing the chat icon. Once you have the chat window enabled, I'd like to test for audio and visual. So if you can hear my voice and see the projection on the screen, please type a Y into the chat now. Thank you all for confirming that. Again, we have a very special event with you today with Chris Lassen of LizardIndicators. But before we get started, I'd like to place a poll into the room. While you fill that out, I'd like to mention that it is important to understand that there are substantial risks in trading commodity future contracts and Forex. You should carefully consider whether such trading is suitable for you and will depend on your specific circumstances and financial resources. It is possible to lose all funds deposited with your broker and can even incur losses beyond these amounts. Please inquire at the link provided for more information or for a copy of the CFTC full risk disclosure. Also, please remember that these training webinars are not a solicitation nor recommendation, but simply educational in nature. This webinar is presented by NinjaTrader LLC, which is the technology company responsible for developing and supporting the NinjaTrader trading software. Brokerage-related questions should be directed to the NinjaTrader brokerage directly at the information provided. Thank you all for filling out that poll. The question is, what type of tools or services have you used with the NinjaTrader ecosystem? 67% of you are using it for indicators and strategies, 18% for education, 2% for programming services, and 13% have not yet used the NinjaTrader ecosystem. With new tools added nearly every day, NinjaTrader ecosystem is home to hundreds of apps and services. You can quickly and easily find the tools or services you're looking for with a simple keyword search. You'll also find information about upcoming webinars in an on-demand video archive to view event recordings at the link provided. For up-to-date information, be sure to like or follow NinjaTrader on all social media platforms. I provided both the Twitter and Facebook link within the chat. NinjaTrader is always free for advanced charting, strategy backtesting, and trade simulation. To ensure you are on the latest version of NinjaTrader and pick up a free live data trial, please visit the following link. You can purchase or lease NinjaTrader at the following link. And if you're just getting started with NinjaTrader, we offer free live training on a daily basis. You can view a schedule of weekly webinars at the following link. We are very excited for this unique event in which Chris will demonstrate candlestick patterns and what to look for when identifying potential trade setups. Thanks again for your attendance today, and without further ado, it is my pleasure to welcome to the NinjaTrader webinar room, Chris. Please take it away, Chris.
All right, so just a quick sound check here to make sure that you can...
You're coming in loud and clear.
Yeah, you can hear me and you see the logo here. All right, super, great. Yeah, so hello from Berlin, Germany, everyone. That's me to the left here. We're a team of 2 at LizardIndicators. So we have our market lizard here to the right, Harry, also known as Fat Tails. So I'll just start off here with a quick look at what we offer. First, there is the indicator spotlight, where we feature some of the tools that you can find in our indicator library for NinjaTrader 8. Usually just a blog post with video explanation of a trading setup or some concept from technical analysis. You then get a free download that you can review on your end. As for the library itself, I think it's pretty much the go-to resource for the NinjaTrader community by now. Open source tools here, about 150 indicators, all available for a one-time flat fee of $150. And finally, we have the premium suite. And to today we'll introduce a new tool from that section, the Candlestick Pattern Indicator. But before we get to that, let's have a look at why patterns are relevant for identifying trading setups in the first place. As humans, we do have a tendency to see patterns pretty much everywhere. And if we look at classic astronomy, only a minimum of imagination here is required to see the Lion and the Leo constellation. Same can be said for the Scorpion in Scorpius and the Mighty Hunter in Orion. In popular culture, we've now arrived at a point where the Virgin Mary will show up even on a piece of toast, getting quite a bit of media attention. Never mind Photoshop and advanced video editing software. We all believe in weird things, and there's a lot of sociological studies and books to prove that point. But in evolutionary terms, patterns are used to tell us something about our current environment in order to make predictions for the future. So it's important for our learning process and the ability to make decisions. But there is a catch here. Sometimes the patterns are real, and other times they're just a result of chance. And therefore, constantly looking for patterns can also lead to seeing things that really aren't there. Still, identifying patterns, even if they're not real, is generally better than ignoring legitimate patterns. So if the deer ignores the warning here, would most likely be a deadly mistake. And so historically, the better choice has been to go with a false positive rather than a false negative. And that is why our brains, along with those of our fellow species, have developed into pattern detecting machines. And coming up here, we'll have a look at how price patterns are used to predict future price movements. But first, a quick intro to the type of bars that are appropriate for candlestick patterns. Basically, all candles tell a story about the relationship between buyers and sellers. And even though all bars have a open, high, low, and close, every candle is unique. There is never a bar with a identical timestamp and price action. And that's important to keep in mind when looking at different types of candlestick patterns. Candlestick patterns are time-based primarily, showing that very little price action occurred in one candle, followed by a lot of activity in the next. So tight versus wide range type comparison. And so therefore, they're predominantly used on minute or daily bars using a calculate on bar close approach. And as you see here, there's quite a bit of them, and this is not even close to all of them, but you basically have two categories: reversal and continuation patterns. We discussed a approach for continuation setups in a Shark Indicators presentation yesterday. So today we'll have a look at potential reversal scenarios. Patterns can form on one candle or in a combination of 2, 3, or more bars. It's also possible to use the patterns in combination with one another. For example, setting one bar, a one bar candle or one bar pattern as a premise, looking for alignment with patterns that form over 2 or 3 bars. So we'll start with the simple one bar pattern here, the long black candle and the long white candle. Name is a bit confusing, seeing that we use green and red plots to distinguish between bullish and bearish price action these days. But yeah, just to stay in line with the literature on candlestick patterns, we decided to stick with the original names. So I think black and white bars were originally used for print purposes, book publishing and so forth. Expensive to do the color prints back in the day, so they went for hollow bars or white bars for these bullish, and black for the bearish. So the threshold for identifying this pattern is locating a candle body which is greater than 3 times the size of the average in the look-back period, closing against the current trend. So obviously a long white candle will have a close higher than the open, whereas the long black candle has a lower close than the open. And there is also a wick requirement here. It should be small in the direction of a close. So for the long white candle, you want it to be here, a small upper candle, upper shadow or upper wick compared to the body size. And for the long black candle, you should have a small lower shadow. So there will often be quite a few of these one-bar patterns, and as a signal might not be the strongest in terms of statistical probability, but as mentioned, they can tell us that market conditions are changing and set the tone for later patterns. We'll come back to an example of that in a few slides here. Also, seeing that we're talking about reversal setup, you want to specify the long white candle to display during downtrends. You can do that directly in the indicator dialog box. So you see here found in downtrends, and it is also where you set the minimum ratio body size. So default setting here, as I mentioned, is 3 times the average, and the shadow size you can also define here. So based on the pattern specifications, you can check the statistical probabilities in the top right corner data box. That's good to know because you can quickly determine whether this is a pattern that you want to consider. So you see here the long white candle had 549 occurrences on this chart. Nasdaq 15 minutes here, about 1,000 days look back here. And so on average, we saw return of 9.3 ticks after 3 bars, and 1.7 after 5, and 0.9 after 10. So the idea here is to establish a cause and effect relationship between your entry point and what happened immediately afterwards. Generally, you'll want to see a reversal pattern contradict the current trend immediately. It's like with my wife, when she's telling the kids to pick up their clothes or clean their room, she means to do it right now, not in the next few days. So the same goes for reversals. You want to see a swift reaction here to these patterns. The next pattern we'll look at is a 2-bar reversal. The first bar in a bullish engulfing is a down close or a doji. Second bar has a large body with an up close, much more going on here when compared to the first candle, and closing above the body high of the prior candle. For the bearish engulfing, first bar is a up close or a doji. Second candle, large body with the down close below the body low of the prior bar. So let's head back to the chart and see what this looks like, and also look at how to establish the trend here. 60-minute NASDAQ chart here, and the red paint bars indicate that the overall trend is down. And for reversal specifically, we're looking for price action that contradicts the trend bias. So bullish reversals is appropriate here. We see the entire body of the small candle here engulfed by the second. The idea being that the small body bar shows us that the trend is sort of running out of steam. Sellers are not able to push prices further down. And when a bar shows indecision like that and very little movement engulfed in the opposite direction, it points to a change in trader psychology. So what about the trend? Well, most of you probably already guessed. The trend indication is a internal zigzag indicator, has the basic features of our premium swing trend indicator, displaying the minor trend based on a minimum deviation requirement. So we set it to the ATR average true range calculation. You can also use average range, use a tick point or percentage threshold. Yeah, but it's the most important filter when evaluating candlestick patterns. Here's a bearish engulfing plotting against the uptrend. Again, a fairly small body bar engulfed by the large candle here and a down close against this trend bias. For engulfing patterns, the size of the large candle and its relationship to the preceding bar is important. Again, the patterns are defined directly in the indicator dialog box. So by default here, we have a minimum large body candle using a factor of 1.2 of the average in the reference period. Other candlestick patterns will require small bars and or dojis, and they too, as you can see here, are defined. The impact of any changes that you do to the settings here is immediately available in the statistical probabilities data box. As far as I know, this is not an option available with other candlestick tools, at least not the ones that we've looked at. And it is a useful feature because some patterns work on equity markets, but not so well on commodities or Forex. Others may show good results on daily bars, but not be suited on faster timeframes. So coming back to whether a pattern is real or not, this is where you can determine that. And the engulfing pattern is challenging. It shows up quite frequently. So you might want to consider aligning it with areas of interest to improve reliability. In this scenario, we added weekly pivot levels. So in pivot trading, the general idea is to buy support and sell resistance. And here, the bullish engulfing plot at the second test of the weekly first support level, and the bearish engulfing plotting here at the prior week close. So if you're not familiar with these support resistance level, they are calculated from the high, low, and close of the prior session. So based on objective price benchmarks, and because of the simplicity and efficiency of the calculation, they're still considered among the most reliable methods for determining key supports and resistance. Okay, the final reversal scenario we'll look at today is the morning star and the evening star patterns. The morning star is a bullish 3-bar pattern where the first bar is a large body down close. The second candle is a small body, so indecision again here. And the third candle is again a large body with a up close above the midpoint here of the first bar. The evening star is then the bearish counterpart. First bar is a large body up close. Second candle is small. And the third candle, again, a large body with a down close below the midpoint of this first bar here. Here's an example from a 15-minute chart of the Russell 2000 contract. First bar here in the Morningstar pattern, large bearish candle confirming the downtrend here. Second candle is a small bar signaling indecision, and the third a large bullish bar, clearly in contrast to the small candle closing above the midpoint here of the first bearish candle. A more restrictive definition of this pattern would be the morning doji star. You would then have to have a doji here in the center. This is almost the case here. Second candle has almost no body. But yeah, again, the body sizes are defined in the indicator dialog box, and that is what determines whether a pattern requirement is met or not. So a evening star here, first bar being a large bullish candle aligned with this uptrend here, followed by a small candle, indecisive, whereas the last candle here, again, large, going against the current trend and closing below the midpoint of the first bullish bar here. And if anyone is wondering why I use this fairly dated chart here, it's because I wanted to have both bullish and bearish patterns to display in one screenshot. So took a while to find that, but yeah, it makes it easier to read and understand what I'm talking about here, hopefully. So again, when considering these reversals, it's a good idea to combine with areas of interest to improve probability. We've added the pre-session high and low levels to get a better idea of what's going on here. As with the pivots, these are objective price benchmarks, and you're more likely to see a critical mass of traders positioned around these levels. In this case, the overnight high and low were set previously, and when the Morningstar pattern appeared shortly after this test of the mid-level, pre-session mid-level, so was able to break through after that. Regular open painted in here, and then a failed breakout of the pre-session high. Evening star plotting right at that level, and prices returning back into the overnight range, closing here below the open. I'm using the premium opening range here to display the night session. The range will be different for a number of instruments, as it refers to the electronic session prior to the regular open. And so what makes this opening range indicator useful is that it has its own data bank running in the background, pulling trading times, regular open, as well as pre-session times for all the major futures contracts. And you can also use this with e-micros and cryptocurrencies. As we've seen, it can make sense to align these reversal patterns with the areas of interest using objective and commonly known key support and resistance levels. But you can also combine one bar patterns with those that plot over 2 or 3 candles. So here we have a long white candle and shortly thereafter a morning star pattern. So one approach is to apply the long white candle as a premise, acting as a warning signal of changing market sentiment and trader psychology. And yeah, when you see additional price action patterns lining up telling the same story, in this case, back-to-back bullish reversals, it can add confidence. Here's the opposite scenario, long black candle preceding a evening star reversal. That serves as a precursor when prices retract from the new high here, giving the evening star setup more weight. Was a second chance here, again with the long black candle followed by 2 consecutive evening star patterns. So bottom line, when price action and various patterns line up and telling the same story, it's less likely that it is a chance occurrence. So you can come back and think about the 2 deers in the woods, and all of a sudden more and more people showing up in orange clothing. That's sort of like what this illustrates. All right, so can be a bit of a challenge to keep track of various patterns across different time frames and instruments. So we've included a candlestick scanner with this. It's a market analyzer template. By default, all 30 patterns are active, and all you really need to do is add the markets and instruments of your choice. So with that, I'm going to wrap up the meat of the presentation and transition to the feature summary here. You can use this as a stand-alone tool to identify buy and sell opportunities, or get it as a system add-on for existing setups, combining with other indicators. As mentioned, there are 30 candlestick patterns for identifying reversals and trend continuation entry points, so far at least. The most important filter is the internal zigzag indicator. Filtering patterns based on the trend bias is not something that's available with most other candlestick indicators we've looked at least not with market structure analysis. If anything, then using simple and lagging moving averages. Also, and this is important, you can configure the pattern definitions as you want here. So as we saw, the size of the dojis, the small versus large candles, and also the wicks for the patterns where that's appropriate. You can also specify the relationship between the candles and decide the look-back period when determining the average bar threshold. And then there is this statistical probabilities feature of each pattern, which is a great starting point for evaluating whether there is an edge to it. And not to forget the market analyzer template for scanning of patterns across multiple timeframes and instruments. So the launch special here today includes what we've discussed, the all new candlestick patterns indicator, as well as the indicator library. So list price for this is $425, and at $345, you get a discount exclusively reserved for our launch events. That means that you'll never see this price again, not even for Black Friday. Of course, if you're already a member, we will have a special offer for you in the membership section there. So log in and check that out. Okay, so this is where you register for the promotion. LizardIndicators.com/candlesticks. And if you've been sitting on the fence regarding a library membership, this is a pretty good opportunity to dive into it. So with that, I think I'll just wrap up the presentation here. We'll have the special event up until the end of the week. So head on over and check that out. And yeah, Tiffany, maybe you can drop the link in the chat here or the Q&A so that
I absolutely
everyone...
can.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then I will open up the Q&A here, see if I can find that here. Or Tiffany, are the questions only in chat, or is there a Q&A as well? Q&A section.
Those questions will be found in the chat room.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to scroll back up here.
And I provided the link in the chat room as well.
All right, super, thanks. Can you use this with Bloodhound templates? Yes, our indicators are compatible with Shark Indicators products. As I said, we did do a Shark presentation yesterday, and we'll do a follow-up on that. Try to get it done by the end of the week here. So I'll show how you can combine this with Bloodhound in that. Do these indicators work for 3-5 charts? Not sure I understand that questions, but it's, like I said, mainly for time-based charts. That's I mean, candlesticks, it's a very old Japanese tradition, so all the observations that are made here and everything that's based on is time-based. And yeah, so you can use it on minute bars or daily bars. That's at least my recommendation. Is the indicator scanning for different candles, and how will it appear? Yeah, I think I showed this here in the scanner. I'll just go back here a little bit. So here you see I've set this to 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 60 minutes, 240 minutes, and daily. So it will look at different time frames there. Any patterns valid on a 5-minute chart? My observation here is that this is mainly effective on higher time frame charts. So starting with 15 minutes, 60 minutes daily, then the performance gets much better. Not sure why that is, but I can imagine that it's possible to manipulate certain patterns. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I know that there are some people that say that on small charts you can, or fast charts, you can manipulate a bullish pattern and then trade against it, so to speak. For 5-minute charts, I have actually found some patterns, 1-bar patterns, that work well on a momentum approach. So if you didn't catch the webinar yesterday, you can check that out in the Shark Indicators channel. That should be out soon. Is there a trial? Yes, you can go to lizardindicators.com/trial, and then you can register right there. Is there a special for the indicator without the membership? No, there is no special without the membership this time around. So there will be a recording of the webinar that NinjaTrader will send out. And which system will it work on? I've mainly tested equity futures on this. Like I said, some patterns work well in some markets and not so well in others. So you'll have to, check that in the data box there. But it's a pretty well-known tradition. This, and the tools that we provide are mainly, it's not something that we've invented. What we've found is most efficient is to use the type of analysis that most traders use, because then there will be an element of self-fulfilling prophecy with it, and candlesticks are a part of that, or their candlestick patterns. Some of them are very well known, so there's a critical mass of participants that will act on it, especially in higher time frame charts. All right, let's see if I can scroll down, see some more questions here. Thanks for the kind feedback, guys. Appreciate it. So the special will expire over the weekend. Justin, see you just started a trial here, but we usually do it like this. If you register for a trial, you have automatically reserved the special pricing, so you have then another week and a half to decide whether you want to act on it or not. Is there a list of the indicators in the library? Let's see if I can get that up here. I just, of course, closed everything down before we started here, but I'll share my screen here with the website. So you go to the library here, and then there is a link up here, all indicators. So that's a list of all of them. And then otherwise, they're here just by categories: oscillators, channel indicators, and so on and so forth. And then there's also the premium suite. So you find the new candlestick pattern here, and our other premium tools listed here as well. So I think that pretty much concludes the presentation here today. Appreciate the opportunity to present. Hope it's been of value for you guys. If you have any questions that I didn't get to answer here, feel free to reach out over at LizardIndicators.com in the contact form there. Otherwise, you can drop me a line at info@LizardIndicators.com. So unless there are any more questions, is there a Shark webinar? That was yesterday. So if you registered for it, Keith will send out a link, or you can drop by their YouTube channel, and the video should be up there in not too long. So the special, there's the time limit on that. Another question on that. So we'll have, that will expire on Sunday. So can you provide a link for the trial? It's basically the same as I showed you here. But instead of candlesticks here at the end, you just type in trial. So that will get you to the registration form for the premium indicators. All right. So thanks for stopping in, everyone. Appreciate it. And Chris Lassen logging off from Berlin, Germany here. It's approaching quite late, not as late as yesterday, but doing back-to-back presentations like this, it's a little bit taxing, but a lot of fun too. So I appreciate everyone stopping by, and look forward to hearing from you sometime soon. Thanks a lot, and bye-bye.
I'd like to give a special thank you to Chris of Lizard Indicators for a great presentation today. Everyone in attendance here today will receive an on-demand video recording of today's event, so just keep an eye open for that email. NinjaTrader Ecosystem is pleased to sponsor these weekly vendor events as a value-added service for our clients. So if you find value in these events, we hope you will attend them on a regular basis. We would like to remind you the information provided in this was of Lizard Indicators and not of NinjaTrader. All information was for educational purposes and should not be construed as trading advice. Again, we appreciate the time you spent with us. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we hope to see you in future webinars. Happy trading from all of us at NinjaTrader Ecosystem. And again, thank you so much, Chris.